arcade. I need help. My husband won't come home.
Pac-Man, I can help.
Get him, Pac-Man!
Stand back.
This is the official tabletop version of Midway's Pac-Man.
It looks the same.
And it plays the same. Monsters, power capsule, sounds, even displays best score. And best of all,
You can take Pac-Man home.
Official Midway Pac-Man for 1 or 2 players. The arcade game you can take home with you from Coleco.
A sound that swept across the world, so iconic that everyone knows where it's from, Pac-Man is easily one of the most recognizable faces in all of gaming. With a brand that's been around for 4.5 decades, its impact cannot be understated. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel where the goal is to play every single game that every character in Super Smash Bros. Is from, starting from the oldest to the newest. I want to thank everyone for all the positive comments in the first video. I was honestly blown away by how well it did, especially for it being about the original Game & Watch series. With the Game & Watch, it was easy to include all the games that his moveset was from. However, since there's so much more to talk about with Pac-Man, I wanted to break it up into 2 separate videos, one focusing on the arcade days, and one focusing on the home console days. With the Game & Watch, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in terms of deep diving past the initial game itself, but with Pac-Man and him being a popular figure for so long, there's a lot more to talk about. So let's take it back to the beginning with the origins of Pac-Man. Pac-Man was created by a man named Toru Iwatani. Toru started his career at Namco in 1977 at the age of 22. He didn't have any formal training in programming or design, and he was largely self-taught by this time. And for those of you wondering and heard me say Namco and not Bandai Namco, at this point the 2 companies hadn't actually merged yet. That wouldn't happen until 2006. When Toru joined Namco, he really wanted to create pinball machines. However, there was a patent on the design of pinball machines, and it would have been hard to develop one without infringing on it. Namco and Toru compromised, and he would make a video game that was an arcade pinball game hybrid named GB. It had a sequel title named Bombi, but neither game really met the sales expectations. In 1979, Toru saw games as only being marketed towards men. He said most arcade video games at the time were violent and focused on the male player. So he decided he wanted to make a game that he thought appealed mostly to women. The idea was if you could get men and women to go to the arcade, it could become a really nice date spot. While trying to think of a way to appeal to a female demographic, he thought women enjoyed eating desserts, so he used eating as his key word. He then saw a pizza with a slice taken out, combined it with a cutesy art style, and from that he thought of his design. So in order to get women to play games, he thought, make it about food. So he thought, game plus food equals women in arcades. Not the best mindset, but hey, he created a mascot that's been around for 45 years, so I don't know, the way the world works sometimes. Toru worked with 9 other programmers to create the design of Pac-Man. They worked on creating something that they described as easy and relaxing. I don't personally know where they got the idea it was relaxing, because those sound effects are anything but. But in doing so, they did create one of the biggest video games of all time, so who am I to complain? Now there is a weird legal issue that happened with Pac-Man around this time, where there was a company named Tommy that had been developing toys called Pac-Man for 6 years up until this point. Namco said it was just a coincidence with their new character would have the same name and similar design. I'll put a picture of one up here right now so you can judge for yourself. Regardless, there was a deal made of a one-time license allowing Namco to trademark the Pac-Man arcade. It was rumored that this deal included Tommy being the sole creators of the merchandise related to Pac-Man in Japan, but in 1984, Namco got full trademark rights to the Pac-Man name. Pac-Man was officially ready to test on May 22nd in 1980. The game officially released in Japan in July and then North America in October. The original Japanese name was Puck-Man, which was from the word paku meaning chomp. But seeing as the fact that puck is pretty similar to another 4-letter word in the English language, they decided to change it so vandals weren't tempted to change that P to an F. Pac-Man is an action maze chase game where the player controls Pac-Man. He is chased by 4 color-coded ghosts, Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, referred to as the Ghost Gang. As Pac-Man, you run through the maze collecting all the Pac Dots until you've eaten them all. In each corner you have a power-up which lets you eat the ghosts and send them back to their home for a time period to recover. As the game progresses, the time of the power pill gets shorter and shorter and the ghosts get better at catching you. Each ghost has their own nicknames and a little bit of backstory. Blinky, the red one, was given the nickname Shadow because he's always the one who is chasing Pac-Man down. When Pac-Man eats a number of Pac dots or as time goes by, Blinky will continue to speed up. The speed version of him was given the nickname Cruz Elroy. Although I couldn't really find a reason he was given this nickname, so if you know, leave a comment because I'm curious to know where this came from. Blinky is the leader of the Ghost Gang and the most aggressive of the four, as he is the one who is always pursuing Pac-Man. Hence the nickname Shadow. He's also the one always chasing Pac-Man at all the intermissions. He also has a daughter named Yum Yum, but we'll get into that later. Inky has the goal to trap you, the player, between himself and another ghost. His movements are more based on Blinky's than Pac-Man. He was given the nickname Bashful and is seen as being goofy because he only appears to chase Pac-Man when another ghost is near. Kinda like the guy who never does anything at work unless the boss shows up. Pinky, who was given the nickname Speedy, is the only female of the 4 original ghosts, and some depictions of Pinky show her having a crush on Pac-Man, which is weird when you think about the fact that she's on the side that wants to kill Pac-Man. But love can make us all do crazy things, I guess. Pinky's movement is based on Pac-Man's direction and focuses on about 4 spaces ahead of him. She usually takes a long way around to get to him, moving counterclockwise, but sometimes she will just straight lock in on him and chase him down just like Blinky. And a little Pac-Man tip for you, because of her programming, if Pac-Man and Pinky meet at an intersection, there's a good chance she will turn away. Then, the last of the 4 is Clyde. He was given the nickname Pokey, with his first name being Hokey. Sorry, I had to. Clyde's movement can appear as random. He seems like he's doing his own thing, hence why he's considered the dumb one, but actually his programming is just like Blinky's, but when he's within an 8-space radius of Pac-Man, he moves to the lower left corner. These 4 ghosts can switch between 4 modes. Chase mode is the basic mode of the game where they try to chase Pac-Man down and go for the kill. Scatter mode is where the game tells the ghosts to retreat to their own corners. Blinky to the top right, Inky to the lower right, Pinky to the top left, and Clyde to the bottom left. This was added to give the player a little break from the endless pursuit of the ghosts and to add a little variety. Fright mode is what the ghosts change into after Pac-Man eats a power pellet. Their movement also becomes more random and slower. And then the last one, Spawn mode, is what the ghosts change into after Pac-Man eats them and they have to flee back to their house, aka their spawn point to recover. One thing about the original Pac-Man that I don't think it's talked about enough is the sound effect / music. They said it was supposed to be relaxing, but I am on high alert whenever I play that game. But even 40 plus years on, Pac-Man is still an engaging game, and that is something special. Pac-Man also very famously has a kill screen when you hit the level 256. It's when half the screen glitches out and shows numbers and random items. This glitch actually occurs as an integer overflow happening in the binary code, and makes an unwinnable screen. Old systems had a max value of 8 bits, which is 255 bytes. So what happens here is the game tries to loop back around to 0. However, the first level is actually 1. So the game actually thinks that level 256 is equal to 0, causing this mess of a screen. I know there are other videos that give a bit more detail about this, so I'll link one of them down in the description. But yeah, when you clicked on a video about Pac-Man, I'm sure you didn't expect to hear about binary, and neither did I. But here we are, and we get to learn something new together. Now, I didn't start this video thinking I was ever going to hit that screen. I mean, that takes a lot of work and hours of gameplay. Roughly 6 hours without a mistake, and I can't even do that in my real life, let alone a video game. There is actually a perfect score number to reach for those who want to take on the challenge though. The score is 3,336,360 points. Now for me, I consider it an accomplishment just to reach all the intermissions, and I mean that doesn't sound that bad, but Pac-Man's pretty hard unless you know some patterns. I had to look up videos on patterns just so I could progress in this game, and I really don't think I could have done it without them. It is fun and addicting though to try to understand all the patterns in Pac-Man. I can see why so many people have put a lot of time and effort into learning it. Pac-Man was actually so huge that in 1982 there was a song that came out called Pac-Man Fever by Buckner and Garcia. It hit number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and more than 1 million copies sold. Pac-Man swept the world, selling over 400,000 units and becoming the highest grossing arcade game of all time. As I mentioned, it featured intermissions between certain rounds. I personally really like the intermissions because it's a nice little break from all the craziness, and it adds more character to the game. And you get the first one after round 2, where you see Pac-Man is chased by Blinky off stage, to then reappear with Pac-Man chasing Blinky in his powered up form. Intermission 2 appears after round 5, where Pac-Man is chased by Blinky again, but this time Blinky gets caught on a nail or something, which rips his ghostly form and reveals a foot. Which confused me because is he really a ghost then, or do we have some type of Scooby-Doo thing going on here? I don't know. Then after round 9, you get the third intermission, which Blinky is chasing Pac-Man again, except this time Blinky has a little tape to patch where his foot was exposed. He chases Pac-Man off screen just like he did in the first one, except this time when he runs back across, he shows his whole wormy form, which then makes me wonder, are all 4 of the ghosts alive, and this is the only game where they're alive because Pac-Man eats them? I'm digging too deep, I know. And when it comes to Smash, you can guess not a lot of his moves are in this game, as this predates his whole arms and legs glow up. But we do get to see some things, such as his side B, which features the pellet to the power pellet as he turns into his original form. My favorite part about that side B actually is that when he reaches the pellet, he has a little bit of super armor. And if you hit Pac-Man before he reaches the pellet and it falls on the ground, anyone can pick it up and it heals a little bit. Just a nice little feature giving more respect to the power pellet. We can also see Pac-Man return to his original form with his Nair and his dash attack, and his charge fruit actually appear in order of their point value in Pac-Man. Cherry is 100 points, Strawberry 300, Orange 500, Apple 700, Melon 1000, Galaxian 2000, Bell 3000, and Key at 5000 points. These bonus fruits help make Pac-Man such a unique fighter and give him a lot of nice tools to add variety to his combat. Now I could have just made one long video about the original Pac-Man, as there really is just so much to go over, but I wanted to go a little bit into the other Pac-Man arcade games in the 1980s, because even if they are not directly mentioned in Smash besides one, I still think they should be talked about, especially the other major yellow ball in the 1980s. Ms. Pac-Man debuted in 1982 and is considered a direct sequel to Pac-Man, which makes a lot of sense when you find out that Ms. Pac-Man actually started off as a mod of the original Pac-Man. See, there was a company called General Computers Corporation who created a mod of the original Pac-Man that they were selling called Crazy Auto. The developers made it their goal to find the weakness in the original game, like taking the patterns that the players could use and then changing it. Crazy Auto looked a lot like Pac-Man but with legs, and the ghosts were swapped for these things. To avoid legal troubles, General Computers presented Crazy Auto to Midway, who was the North American distributor for Pac-Man. Rather than selling this new character, Midway wanted to recreate the game to be a sequel. It went through a few different workarounds until it eventually landed on a female Pac-Man, who they decided to call Ms. Pac-Man. Almost all of the same ghosts appear from the original game. You have Blinky, Inky, Pinky, but instead of Clyde, you have a newcomer named Sue. The general gameplay of Sue was the same as Clyde, except Sue was purple and added another female character to the cast. Ms. Pac-Man played very similar to the original Pac-Man, but brought some big changes to the established formula. There were also 4 different mazes with their own color layout. In Ms. Pac-Man, the ghosts are more aggressive and no longer have that scatter mode that gave the players a break. In this game, the ghosts are always chasing you and they do not let up. In this game, the later fruits change, so you start off, you have the cherry, strawberry, and orange with the same point values, but then it changes to a pretzel for 700, an apple for 1000, a pear for 2000, and a banana for 5000 points. And in this one, instead of the fruit sitting below the ghost house, the fruit in this one bounce around and then disappear into the warp tunnels. Ms. Pac-Man, from what I've been reading, is seen as the better of the 2 games, which makes sense if you think about the fact that it was specifically designed to fix or improve on all the weaknesses of the original game. I think Pac-Man is still, the original and all, but I do think this game did what it set out to do. And from what I've been seeing online, those who are really big Pac-Man fans say that this is the better one of the 2. This game also features intermissions, except these ones really start to build more of a world around Pac-Man. In Intermission 1, titled They Meet, Ms. Pac-Man is chased by Pinky and Pac-Man is chased by Inky. They then come back to meet in the middle and head straight up, causing the 2 ghosts to crash into each other. And a big heart appears above the 2 protagonists to symbolize their love. In Act 2, titled The Chase, the 2 appear going back and forth across the screen chasing one another, and the 2 keep speeding up until it's over. Look at those 2 little lovebirds going back and forth, so cute. In Act 3, titled Junior, Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man wait on the bottom left side of the screen until a stork appears on the top carrying a baby and drops it down to them, This would later become Junior Pac-Man. Ms. Pac-Man also has a kill screen like Pac-Man. I read online that there were a total of 8, but I couldn't find them all. The most famous one appears to be the one where the map flips upside down and Ms. Pac-Man starts out of bounds. This one took a lot of work to make any progress in, but I really do like the changes that it made. I like that it added a few different mazes so that it didn't get stale. Overall, I think it's a really solid sequel to one of the biggest games of all time. The third game in the Pac-Man series, Super Pac-Man, which you can tell he is super by the fact that he's wearing a cape, was developed by Namco themselves, and in this game the normal pellet collecting is a thing of the past, and we just go straight for the items. The items are hidden behind walls which can be unlocked by eating the keys around the stage. You can also just break through the walls by eating the big green pellets that turn Pac-Man into Super Pac-Man. And this larger version of him on the screen is actually where the inspiration for his final Smash came from. As for the ghost, they kicked Sue to the curb and they brought back Clyde. Clyde only appears to want a piece of Pac-Man, but I don't really know what he did to him. In this game, the ghost can always outrun Pac-Man, so you have to use the warp tunnels in order to slow them down. Also, the space directly below their house slows them down too. This game also brought back the scatter mode that was in the original, but it's much more obvious when it happens in this one because the ghost will like stutter in place for a second. Since there's no dots in this one, there's a lot more items than ever to collect. You have an apple, banana, donut, hamburger, fried egg, corn, shoe, cake, peach, melon, coffee, mushroom, bell, clover, Galaxian, oh, and a gift, how nice. I like how most of the early items are all edible, but then they just throw in a shoe. This game also features 4 intermissions. In the first one, Pac-Man is chased by all the ghosts until he goes off screen and then reappears flying above them in a Super Pac-Man form, which kind of reminded me of that scene in E.T. where he makes the kids' bikes fly over everybody. In Intermission 2, Pac-Man is chased by a giant Blinky until they go off screen and then both reappear with Super Pac-Man chasing Blinky, who is now in his panic mode. In Intermission 3, Blinky and Pinky chase Pac-Man to the middle to be cut off by Inky and Clyde, only for Pac-Man to use the special Hidden Leaf Village Shadow Clone Jutsu to appear above the ghost in a Super Pac-Man form and drop on them, murdering them all in the process. In Intermission 4, Pac-Man is being chased off-screen by an army of ghosts, but when the ghosts reappear there are only 4, and there's an army of tiny Pac-Man chasing them down. I don't have a ton to say about this one because it's pretty much just another Pac-Man game. However, I did enjoy the new mechanic with the keys and the doors. It was a really nice twist on the Pac-Man experience. If you see this one in an arcade someday, give it a shot. I think it's worth it. This one is definitely the odd man out of the Pac-Man arcade lineup. Professor Pac-Man is a quiz game rather than a maze game. The original idea for Professor Pac-Man was to take the maze gameplay, but then add a quiz question when eating a power-up. Supposedly the idea came from world champion foosball player Johnny Lott and Ed Eldom. The game was developed by Dave Nutting Associates, but by the time the game was developed, the maze gameplay was removed. Professor Pac-Man is a visual-based quiz game where the player is called Pupil. You are given 3 options, A, B, and C, and you have to answer the question in the fastest time possible. There are over 500 questions, and I found most of them to be matching games, like which 2 are the same but mirrored, which one doesn't match the others. The timer is a little Pac-Man eating pellets, and the quicker you answer, the more points you get. If you get enough questions in a row, you get a bonus question to get more points. This one you can probably guess did not do too well, as if you're like me, you didn't even know this existed. Professor Pac-Man only sold 400 arcade machines, and some of the machines were actually sent back to Midway to be repurposed into Pac-Land cabinets later on. I actually do think this game is kind of fun for what it is, but I can definitely see a kid in the 80s being excited to play Pac-Man, and they walk up to this cabinet expecting Pac-Man. One thing I did find interesting about this game is it's the first time that I saw in-game Pac-Man with arms and legs. But immediately after you hit start, Pac-Man walks to the corner of the screen and just takes his head off and sits it down. I didn't really know how to feel about this, so I just wanted to share it with you all. Because it was, a little weird, yeah. Professor Pac-Man does not have another game, however he does appear later on in the Pac-Man World series. So he wasn't completely lost to time. Possible Professor Pac-Man to Smash as a counterpart like Mario and Dr. Mario? Who's to say? My guess is no. In Pac and Pal, we go back to the maze game formula Pac-Man is known for, except in this one expands the idea from Super Pac-Man with the keys and the doors. Also this time, Pac-Man brings a little buddy named Miru. Miru is a ghost who doesn't hurt Pac-Man but instead picks up items and tries to carry them away. When Miru picks up an item, they slow down, which can actually help Pac-Man by carrying the item closer to you. Or if you're like me, where Miru picks up the item and then runs behind the ghost to where I cannot get it anymore. This game has cards on the ground that you flip, which will have a corresponding door. When the door is open, you can go inside and get the item. Pac-Man can flip up to 3 cards at the same time. This game features no warp tunnels, but actually has a tunnel that is below the ghost's house. Every 4 rounds, a bonus round will appear and Pac-Man can flip cards. The cards contain either a $sign, Miru, or Blinky. The $signs give you more points, Miru doubles your score, and revealing Blinky means the bonus round is over. This game removed the power pellets and instead added 5 new power-ups in Galaxian, which lets Pac-Man shoot beams and make the ghost spin, the Rally X race car, which Pac-Man spits out smoke and makes the ghost eyes water, a trumpet to let out musical notes and let the ghost dance, a snowman which lets Pac-Man spit out freezing mist to trap ghosts on a block of ice, and Pac Replica, which lets Pac-Man spit out micro Pac-Man that will bite the ghosts. There's actually a different version of this game called Pac-Man and Chomp Chomp, where Miru is replaced by Pac-Man's dog from the Hanna-Barbera cartoon airing at this time. I think in the game Miru makes more sense to have here since they're supposed to be a helpful ghost, which would also explain why the other ghosts don't harm Miru. But I also like the idea with Chomp Chomp where the ghost won't harm him, maybe just because he's a dog. I mean, the ghost may want Pac-Man dead, but even they won't cross the line of harming his dogs. So I guess they aren't too bad after all. I do want to talk very briefly about this TV show because it does have its place in history. And it does have a significant role in one of the games I'm going to talk about. It premiered on ABC and ran for 44 episodes over 2 seasons from September 25th, 1982 to November 5th of 1983. The reason that this show is special because it's the first ever television series based on a video game, ever. I found some episodes to be on YouTube, so I'll link them down below in the description, in case anybody actually wants to watch this show. It adds a lot more world building around Pac-Man, which I think is pretty cool. It has that vintage cartoon feel with the slapstick style humor for kids, and I think it's fun to see how Hanna-Barbera portrayed these characters. It feels pretty generic, but if you're a Pac-Man fan, I'd still say check it out. Now onto the child that fell from the sky and Ms. Pac-Man, let's talk about Junior Pac-Man. Junior is the child of Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man, and this game was created by General Computers, the creators of Ms. Pac-Man, and was released in 1983. The gameplay of this one is pretty similar to its predecessors, but the 2 big takeaways I had from this one is the introduction of a new ghost, Clyde is gone once again, and in comes Tim. Tim moves just like Clyde and Sue, and is also orange like Clyde, but he is a whole new character. And the way you can tell he's a new character is because they say so. The items in this one are also completely different, featuring a tricycle, kite, drum, balloon, train, car, and a root beer. Nothing about the gameplay in this one really blew me away, but the intermissions in this one tell a fun little story. In Intermission 1, Junior meets Yum Yum. Junior goes outside to play and sees Yum Yum. He tries to go over to Yum Yum, but gets chased away by Blinky, who in turn gets chased away by Ms. Pac-Man. Intermission 2, Junior meets Yum Yum on the bridge and gives her a balloon, but lurking in the bushes is a disapproving parent, Blinky. Intermission 3, they escape, Blinky reveals himself, and Yum Yum lets go of the balloon. Blinky chases Junior, then Ms. Pac-Man shows up to protect her child, distracting Blinky. Junior and Yum Yum then get away together, and a lots of hearts show and text appears that says they escape. So in Junior Pac-Man, Junior falls in love with a ghost. I'll be honest, I did not see that coming. This is another one of those Pac-Man games where I never even heard about it before I started making this video. Even though I didn't think too much of it, I still thought it was nice to play this piece of Pac-Man history. But one thing I will give this one is that the quality of the intermissions are really good. Probably the best of them all. In 1984 came another big shift in the Pac-Man series with Pac-Land. Like I said, the inspiration of this game came from the TV series. And if this looks familiar, you may recognize it as being the playable stage in Smash. This is also the inspiration of where his hydrant comes from. Pac-Land is a platform side-scroller where the goal is to walk or run across the map to return a fairy who is hidden under Pac-Man's new fancy hat. Pac-Man walks away from his room to cross all sorts of terrain to return the lost fairy to the mother fairy. The ghosts in this consist of Blinky, Pinky, Inky, Clyde, and Sue. This time they drive cars, pogo jump, follow you slowly off screen, and even fly planes dropping micro ghosts onto you. You can select the difficulty of this one by selecting what round you want to start at, but no matter what round you start at, each time to the Mother Fairy and back is 4 rounds. You know you reach the end of the first 2 rounds by reaching the break time sign at the end, which is straight where Smash got the inspiration for this victory screen. You can time your jumps to the music at these break signs to get the highest score possible, which is 7,650. Pac-Man makes it to Fairyland on the 3rd round and returns the fairy to the Fairy Mother, who in turn gives Pac-Man magical boots with wings, which lets you fly back home. When he gets home, he is greeted by Ms. Pacman, Baby Pac-Man, Chomp Chomp, and Sourpuss's cat. And I think we all know where Junior is. I also want to mention that Chomp Chomp and Sourpuss are not in the Japanese version because they don't exist over there. This one was a lot of fun. I thought this game looked great, and to be honest, besides the original Pac-Man and Ms. Pacman, this is probably my favorite. You can even find hidden items by moving certain fire hydrants, cacti, and tree stumps. The music playing in the background of the game is actually an 8-bit version of the theme song from a show.
Pac-Man, that's me.
So if you ever get a chance to play this one, give it a shot. It's pretty fun. Then lastly, in the classic Pac-Man arcades, we have Pacmania. Pacmania came out in 1987 and brought a 3D twist to the classic arcade game. It was the first Pac-Man game to be developed for 16-bit, and it plays very similar to the original style of Pac-Man. However, in this one you cannot see the whole maze at once, and you also get the ability to jump over ghosts. This game also features the most ghosts up until this point. You start off here with the original Ghost Gang in Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, but in the second round you see the return of Sue. Then in later rounds you get new ghosts named Funky in round 4 and Spunky in round 8. Funky's ability is he jumps whenever Pac-Man jumps, but he just jumps a little shorter, so it's still possible for Pac-Man to clear him. Then there's Spunky, who is basically just like Funky again, but gray, and this time he jumps at the same height as Pac-Man, so you cannot jump over him. This one's pretty cool because you get to see Pac-Man in 3D, but it really doesn't do anything too crazy. I think not being able to see the whole map was kinda cool because it makes it more of a guessing game, and the new jump mechanic was a nice new feature. The last thing I want to talk about here is not a Pac-Man game, but it is related to his history with arcades. In Super Smash Bros., Pac-Man's up taunt is called Namco Roulette. With this taunt, Pac-Man will stick his hand out and a random arcade character will appear in his hand. Most of these games that will appear are from his arcade era days, except 3. Those 3 being Heihachi Mishima, Don-chan, and the Prince of All Cosmos. The only one of these taunts that is related to Pac-Man in Smash is actually Mappy, because the trampoline in his game is where the inspiration for Pac-Man's Up B came from. I think I'll make some YouTube shorts going over each of these games, but for now, here's this really cool compilation I made. Before starting this video, I genuinely did not know a whole lot about Pac-Man and his history. My only real experience with Pac-Man was occasionally seeing his arcade cabinet at arcades or playing him in Smash. But that's what this whole series is about to me, is discovering all these games and discovering where all these super cool characters are from. It's really cool to see where Sakurai and the team who created Smash get their inspiration from, because they really do put a lot of effort into making every character feel special, and giving them as many references to their original game as they possibly can. I think Namco Roulette is really special too because it's like an ode to these games that could have been forgotten to time for most people. I'm sure most people who play Smash don't even notice these things, but maybe for an older generation who played a lot of arcade games, it's a really cool little shout out to them. For me, that's what makes a game like Super Smash Bros. So special in my mind. Pac-Man has had his own cereal, soup, lunchboxes, Slurpees, telephones, glass. Pac-Man became the first marketable mascot in gaming, which when you look back on it now is huge. I'm glad I got to go back in time and play these games and get a chance to show them all to you. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. How do you feel about Pac-Man? Do you like him in Smash? Do you main him? Do you secondary him? Do you hate him with all your might? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you all have a good rest of your day or night, and I will see you in part 2.
Pac-Man. Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.